Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. Happy Good Friday to you. We're celebrating Passion Week this week. We talked about yesterday that how Jesus was preparing his disciples. That's a Thursday episode. Good Friday, which is today, we're talking about Jesus willingly laying down his life. Tomorrow we'll be talking about Jesus died, not as an ordinary man. And then, of course, on Sunday, it'll be Easter. And so death is defeated, he is risen, will be that episode. So join me today. We're going to be doing a lot of reading here. I'm going to be reading today from Luke chapter 22, verses 47 to 53, then skipping ahead to 63 to 65, and then skipping ahead to chapter 23, verses 8 through 43. I'm going to read this. This talks about Jesus's the suffering he did right as he was being crucified, before he was being crucified, and then as he was being crucified. This all shows how he willingly lays down his life. Okay, he could have easily, called down angels to stop everything. He could have, ascended right there. He could have got out of it really quick, but he willingly laid down his life for you and me. Okay, so let me read here. It says this: while he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and the man who called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus asked him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, they said, "Lord, should we strike with our swords?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus answered, "No more of this." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. From the other Gospels, we know that Peter was the one who cut off that ear. Verse 52, then Jesus said to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and the elders who had come for him, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour when darkness reigns." I want you to love that. He calls him out. He says, I was with you every day, and you didn't come to arrest me. But now it's all dark, and he says, but this is your hour when darkness reigns. Calling him out as Prince of Darkness, really, part of that Satan's tribe, you might say. Okay? Let's skip over to verse 63 to 64. The men who were guarding Jesus began mocking and beating him. They blindfolded him and demanded, "Prophesy, who hit you?" And they said many other insulting things. Okay, so this is the temple guards doing this. Okay, now let's skip ahead, and then Jesus is now taken before Pilate and then Herod. Okay, and during this time, we're going to skip ahead to chapter 23, verse 8, and pick it up from there. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform a sign of some sort. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in the elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day Herod and Pilate became friends, because before this they had been enemies. As we're going through this, I want you to see the amount of suffering that Jesus did and willingly laying down his life. You're going to see it's not just one thing, but it's stuff piled upon piled upon piled, until ultimately, he's even too weak to carry his own cross. Which everybody else that was being crucified did, but he was too weak to carry his own cross because he'd been beaten so much before. And then he goes to the point of crucifixion and dies there. Okay. Pilate called together the chief priests and the rulers of the people and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was inciting the people to rebellion. I have examined him in your presence and have found no basis for the charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. So as you can see, he has done nothing to deserve death. Therefore I will punish him and then release him." Well, it's kind of funny. He found nothing wrong with what Jesus was doing, okay? But he still goes ahead and punishes him, and then he was going to release him. Verse 18, but the whole crowd shouted, away with this man, release Barabbas to us. Barabbas had been thrown into prison for an insurrection in the city and for murder. Keep in mind, just a week before, Jesus had entered the city, and people were praising Jesus, and then now they're, saying, give us Barabbas rather than Jesus. Verse 20, wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again, but they kept shouting, crucify him, crucify him. For the third time he spoke to them, why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore I will have him punished and then release him. But with loud shouts they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. Okay. Keep in mind here, what has happened is Pilate is, he finds nothing wrong with Jesus, okay? But as he's questioning him and then talking to the Pharisees and the religious leaders here and the people, he's a people pleaser, okay? And he's in hot water really with the Roman government, and he's just trying to keep the peace, and he's trying to please the people and keep the peace here, okay? It's like Good Friday, and like every bug that is possible has come out to try and attack me here. Let's keep reading. Verse 26, as the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, blessed are the childless women, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed. Then they will say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if the people do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry? 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, he saved others, let him save himself. If he is God's Messiah, the chosen one. The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine and wine vinegar and said, if you're the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was written a notice above him which read, this is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus answered him, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Okay, we're going to end there. I want you to see from the scriptures here, from what I read today, that Jesus willingly laid down his life. There was many opportunities for him to get out of this death and the crucifixion, but he willingly laid down his life, okay? And he did it for the salvation of you and me. That's why he did it. And so that's what this day is called for us to represent, him laying down his life for us, and he did it willingly, okay? So anyway, remember that today on Good Friday here. Join me tomorrow again as we look again at how Jesus died, not as an ordinary man. And then on Sunday, we're going to be talking about he is risen and how Jesus defeated death. Jesus is the only one that's ever done it, okay? So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow and Sunday. Lord's blessing. See you then.